Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to take a look at vintage mint on card action figures. I think they're all mint on card, and most of these were auctions, and there were some pretty good deals out there. A few tough ones to find, like the very dark brown haired Luke Skywalker farm boy that was on the 45 bag. That's a really tough action figure variant to find mint on card and is very pricey. On the other end of the spectrum, the Ewoks Wicket W. Warwick went for a lot less than I expected. I was really shocked at how low that one went. So hopefully one of y'all were able to get a good deal. And we've got a little bit of everything in between, starting with a 21 back A Death Star droid. I thought this was a pretty decent deal. I sent this one out to my Patreon supporters. I might have also put it out in a what to buy video. I can't remember. But this was a punched example, no price sticker. The card got a 75, mainly because of some just light edge wear issues and a very light kind of creasing around the hang tab. But it was mainly just the edges. The edges all had chipping all the way around it. So that's why I got the 75 sub score for the card. And then it had 285 scores for the blister, which was crystal clear, and the figure score. And it was listed for 700, which I thought was actually not too bad of a deal. That's pretty good deal for an overall 80 grade. And again, not perfect, but you know, to me, to get one already graded AFA 80 clear blister, beautiful offerless Death Star droid on the Star Wars card, that's a number I'd pay. I mean, that's a pretty nice example. So that one did finally sell. It sat for a couple of days on the market. Here's another really good deal. This is one I believe I sent out to my Patreon supporters. It was an unpunched with a price sticker Princess Leia on the 31 back. So this was the 31 back debut card for Leia. Clear blister, and I didn't see anything particularly wrong with it. I mean, it looks like a solid 80 to 80 plus grade Princess Leia bespin. I don't see any kind of wear to the neck there. There's something weird maybe going on around the very bottom of her neck. Maybe some discoloration going on. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it looks every bit of a beauty to me. And, you know, maybe you guys can tell me why Leia Bespin has gone down in value. It just seems like Leia Bespin in general has gone way back down. And I've seen a number of sales over the last 2 or 3 months that supports that argument. So this one was a beauty, and it sold for $390, which I thought was a really good deal. Very, very low price to me. Here, well, Jada, just seller Jada34 had a number of card backs that were listed. Now, you got to be really careful with this seller. I'm not trying to pick on this seller, but in my opinion, it looks like this has color touch-up around the hang tab, and then to the left of the hang tab, it had some scratches that looked like they've been colored in. So I don't know if that was disclosed. You know, it was not disclosed. Came from the original owner who purchased at a store in the early 1980s. Pretty sure that the store in the 1980s did not remove the price sticker or try to touch up the color, but that's exactly what it looks like to me. So it sold at $360. You know, for a 32 back Han 32B, you know, if it had been one without color touch-up, would it have gone higher? Probably. So maybe I'm not giving enough credit to you guys as bidders, because the blister was crystal clear, really great shape. The weapon was still attached inside the blister, but it definitely had some color touch-up. So to me, I'm not paying $360 for that. You know, maybe it's worth $150 to $200 to me if I was willing to take that, you know, something with color touch like that. But I'm not paying $360 for it. That's my personal opinion. I'd pay $500 for one without color touch-up in similar condition, but to me, it's just not worth $360 with color touch-up. And, you know, again, this seller, I'm not trying to accuse the seller of anything, but he has various kind of items that makes you wonder. You know, it's just, I look at the above the hang tab there, that little spot above the hang tab, is that color touch-up too? I don't know. But when I see this Han with color touch-up that was not disclosed, I start to question every listing, fair or not. And I'm not saying he even did it. I mean, he's clearly a reseller. He's got 2,700 transactions, so he probably bought it in a collection and listed it. But to me, I think you owe it to your bidders to at least give it a once-over and disclose any known defects, especially ones that are very easy to spot like that. Now, it could not be color touch-up. It's very possible, but to me, it looks like color touch-up. So So anyway, just be careful out there on eBay. I mean, it's nothing that we haven't talked about at length before. So this 31 back Power Droid, unpunched, sold for $733, which is a lot of money, you know. So I think if you bought this, take a closer look at that little spot above the hang tab there to make sure it's not color touch. To me, it doesn't. It looks like it could be, but I don't think it is. Whereas the Han, I do think it is. So this is probably about a 75 score for the card, but maybe it ekes out an overall 80 because the blister and the figure look to be really great. So anyway, that one did sell for $733. He also had this yellow blister Snaggletooth on the 41 back, and it looks like it had some scuffing and issues at the top of the card there. Obviously the yellowing, probably a yellowed 75 plus would be my guess on this one. $247.50, very fair price for what it was. Here was a yellowed blister 41 back Hoth Rebel Soldier, and this was unpunched, no price sticker, and this one looked good. This one looked really, really good to me. I didn't see anything, I mean, other than the yellowing to the blister. Never mind. You can see in the lower right there, it had either some water damage or something going on there. So anyway, the card is kind of bubbling in the lower right-hand corner. I didn't look very closely at these when I pulled them up, but I wanted to at least show you some recent sales. So, you know, again, whatever. You got it for $240. It's probably okay. You know, just slap it in an acrylic case from Case Shells at yahoo.com. Tom Hogan runs that, and he's got a number of really nice acrylic case shells that you can email him for away from eBay prices. So if you're looking for any acrylic sliding cases. Next up, we had that beautiful 45 back Luke Farm Boy with the dark brown hair. So we just talked about one that sold at Hakes. That was an AFA 85 plus that sold for about $1,000. And here's one that was mint on card, and the figure is in great shape. Card back, I would say, you know, with the tears from trying to remove the price sticker, there's a litho tear there. Back of the card was pretty good. This is the Unitoy factory. You can see the U below the proof of purchase seal. So I think overall this is a 75 or 75 plus. I don't know what's going on at the bottom of this blister though. That's my only concern. You know, is it a reseal? I have no idea what's going on down there. I mean, it looks like Luke got really excited and crapped his pants and left something on the ground there. So I don't know what's going on with the bottom of that blister. So 70, 75, you know, somewhere in that ballpark. It sold for $13.31, which again, assuming it's not a reseal, not a bad price. And quite honestly, even if it was a reseal, given that a loose graded figure sold for $1,000, and I would say this looks every bit of an 85 to me for the figure score. So probably about right. $13.31 on that one. Next up was a 48C Chewbacca, and it did have a yellowed blister, lots of scuffing around the hang tab there. And, you know, again, bid with caution. I don't know what's going on with the hang tab. It just could be some fraying or something like that going on. Back of the card looks pretty good there. So probably a yellow to 80, maybe a 75 plus with that scuffing in the upper left. That one sold for $402. Chewbacca on the 48C, not one you see that often. So that is, and he's a main character, so I could see that one going for a little bit more. I thought this was a pretty good deal on a 40, I think it was a 41 back. Yeah, 41 back. I think this is the D. For Bossk, and it was unpunched, no price sticker, yellowed blister, two very small dings on the blister. I still think it ekes out an 80 overall, a yellowed 80 overall. And you know, it was listed with a buy it now price of $300. And I sent it out to my Patreons. I don't know if one of y'all bought it or not, but it sold very quickly after I sent it out. I think it gets an 80 overall. That's a very nice looking example for Bossk on the 41 back. And, you know, for a buy it now of $300, I thought that was a pretty good price. Next up, we got the debut card for the Imperial TIE Fighter palette. This is the 47 back free Forlom offer. That's the debut card for the TIE Fighter. Clear blister, unpunched, and it looks to me like the blister's starting to pull away in the upper left-hand corner. It did get the overall 80 from CAS. Card 85, blister 80, figure 90. You know, I don't know what's going on with that blister. I will say that a lot of 47 and 48 back blisters are just known for being sealed to the card poorly. And someone brought this up in the comments on my Patreon page when I sent this out. They said, you know, is it normal for the blister to kind of overlap to go past the card back? And I said, quite honestly, yeah, for 47 and 48 backs. I don't know what it was with those factories. Let's see if we can figure out the factory code on this one, if it's listed. So this was another Unitoy factory. So I found that my 47 backs and 48 backs for the Empire Strikes Back card backs, there are issues around the bottom of the seal by the stem, and other issues like this where it overlaps or it's just misaligned on the card back. It's just what those card backs are known for, and a lot of weird factory errors like that. So, you know, if you can live with it, you know, it's just one of those things that you're going to have to deal with, because a lot of them do have that issue. If you collect 47 or 48 backs, or maybe even some earlier card backs for the Empire Strikes Back, I just noticed that particularly on 47 and 48 backs, it's a common problem where you have these just wonky seal and wacky blister issues that happen. So anyway, that one did sell for $610. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. Pretty fair deal for a CAS 80 clear blister debut card for the TIE Fighter pilot. Here's another one I sent out to my Patreon supporters. I didn't look up what the actual most, you know, make an offer, best accepted offer was, but I thought it was a pretty good deal. It was a 77 back yellowed, very lightly yellowed blister Biker Scout, unpunched, no price sticker, and I think it was a Taiwan. Yeah, so this was a figure made in Hong Kong. So 77 back A Biker Scout that was in really good shape, and it was listed for $200. Make an offer, so somebody got it for below that number. I thought that was a pretty fair price for a Biker Scout. Here was an unpunched Stormtrooper, and you know, it had a faint crease on the front of the card there, slightly yellowed blister, but it was unpunched, and this one was the 77 back A as well. So nice looking example. And the blister yellowing, you know, it wasn't terrible. It was moderate, I guess. It kind of blends in with that smoky background on the actual card art. So it presents very nicely. That one sold for $400 in an auction. So I've seen some clear blister later Return of the Jedi Stormtroopers that go for stupid money. I mean, if it's clear blister and it's on a U.S. Return of the Jedi card back, you're going to pay a ton of money. I mean, it's just crazy how expensive those are because they're so hard to find. Clear blister, maybe the 65 backs, those you can find, like the A or B backs. You can probably find those clear blister much easier than the 77 or 79 backs. They just almost always yellow like this. So that one did sell for $400. Next up, I've got several different examples of Luke Skywalker in his battle poncho on the Power of the Force card. I think three different examples that sold. This one was kind of in 75-ish grade condition, lots of edge wear. That one sold for about $400. Jada again had one with the UFO flying saucer type of punch tab, which this one also did have, but it was unpunched. But it had a thumbtack hole right above the hang tab there from when someone as a kid was probably hanging it on their wall. So that's going to really hurt the score on that one. This one did not have that issue, but it was punched, but lightly yellowed. That one sold for $355, which I thought was a pretty good deal, assuming that it had no color touch. I didn't see any issues on that one. And then here was the third one, which was a heavily yellowed blister AFA 85 with the Clearview label up top. Straight 85s for the subscore, unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $550, which I thought was not a terrible deal at all. You know, I don't like the label up top on vintage stuff, but you know, we've seen some AFA 85s elsewhere on some of the alternate, you know, big auction houses go for a lot more than $550. So I thought that was a pretty good deal there. Same seller also had this punched example, AFA yellowed 80 for Obi-Wan on the Power of the Force card. That one looked to be in really good shape as well. It looks like it had some sticker residue below the ages 4 and up, which probably held the score back a little bit. But it was an overall AFA 80. That one sold for $560. So, you know, you're going to pay a lot of money for Ben Kenobi on the Power of the Force card. It's just a very expensive one usually. Here was that KB Toys overstock that I had in my What to Buy video. That one did sell. Rough shape, but they almost always are. That one did sell for $290, which I was expecting it to sell. It's a fairly common character combination for those KB Toys overstock 2-packs, but $290 pretty cheap, really, for one of those. I thought that was a good deal. Back to the Power of the Force. Here was an unpunched C-3PO. That one sold in an auction for $354. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. That's probably about an 80 grade. Back to Jada again. I don't know. I got these all out of order. My brain was not working when I assembled these. Back to Jada. He had this A-Wing pilot. This was an unpunched example with a price sticker, probably in about 80 grade condition would be my guess on that one. That one sold for $467, which is about right. The Imperial Dignitary. This was one that was part of the quote unquote Morphy's find. Kind of a wonky looking blister though. Lots of air pockets on it, which does happen with those coins, but it just doesn't present that nicely. It's just something about that blister seal that presents kind of ugly, in my opinion. So that's why it sold so cheap too. It sold for $280, which is pretty inexpensive. Barada, this was another Morphy's find, but in pretty, kind of middling shape. It's probably about a 75 grade. That one sold for $306. I guarantee you, whoever bought this from the Morphy's auction paid a lot more than $306, because a lot of those Morphy's finds were not in near mint plus condition, and this is one of them. This is at best probably a 75, and Morphy's had a high auction premium. They had taxes, and I'm seeing a lot of the AFA loose graded that they had in a recent auction get resold too. So I just think that a lot of people didn't factor in the buyer's premium and taxes, sales taxes, when they were bidding on a lot of those items. That's why I stayed away from it. They just went way too high in that February 2023 auction. So I bet somebody lost some money on this one. But anyway, that one did sell for $306. Here was the Power of the Force lightsaber, pop-up lightsaber for R2-D2. Probably a 75 plus or an 80 grade condition. It had a small crease on the lower right-hand corner on the back that would probably hold it back a little bit on grading. So I'd say 75 plus pretty comfortably. You can see that crease shows through on the front as well. So that would hurt the card score. It would be a 75 at best for the card. Maybe you get an 80 for the blister and an 85 for the figure, or an 80 for the figure. So 75 plus or a low 80. 937 on that one, which, I mean, usually even in worse condition, a mint on card pop-up R2-D2 is going to set you back at least $800. So I thought that was pretty fair price as well. Finally, here's the one I was alluding to at the beginning of my video. I showed this in a what to buy video, and I was surprised that this one went as cheap as it did. It sold at $634. This is the Lily Letty, made in Mexico. You can see down there below the proof of purchase, figure made in Mexico. And as is common for both U.S. Kenner card backs, as well as the Ewoks for the U.S. market, they have kind of a matte finish to the back instead of the glossy finish for the U.S. made cards. But it's in pretty pristine condition. It had one little ding down there at the two little dings down there at the bottom. But the front of the card, the blister, everything is in immaculate condition. I mean, this should get an 80 grade pretty easily. And I mean, I've seen on Facebook just a loose complete Wicket sell for $600. I mean, that's what this one sold for, mint on card. So this was a great deal, easily the best deal of all of his auctions, from these recent auctions. So that was a really good buy. I hope one of y'all were able to get it for $634. That's the cheap. I was not expecting it to go that cheap. I really thought it would go $800 or $900 minimum. So great deal on that one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent mint on card sales. Please leave me a like. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.